She's the only human ever to snag Nobel Prizes in two completely different sciences, right? For decades, it felt like the world was actively trying to erase her from history.
Can you imagine?
In a tiny, cramped, and frankly leaky shed in Paris, she was stirring tons of pitchblende with an iron rod almost as tall as she was. Hunting for an element no one had ever even seen. When she finally stepped up to a lectern to speak about scientific research, her voice wasn't just her own. It carried the immense weight of every door slammed in her face, every muttered insult, every sneering headline that scoffed at the very notion of a woman in physics. Today, we're going to unpack that speech, her quiet, profound manifesto that still, to this day, rearranges how we think about curiosity, courage, and the true price of progress. Our story starts with Maria Skłodowska, born in Warsaw, Poland, under the heavy hand of Russian rule. Imagine a world where universities simply barred women from entry. A world that tried to dim the brightest minds just because of their gender. But Maria, she and her sister Branya weren't having any of it. They joined the Flying University, a network of clandestine classes that moved nightly. Dodging the watchful eyes of the police, this wasn't just about getting an education, okay? It was an act of defiance. A quiet rebellion against oppression. Maria, the youngest of 5, had already known her share of sorrow, losing her mother and a sister early on, hardships that only sharpened her resolve. She scraped together every coin she could, tutoring, working as a governess for years, all to send her sister to medical school first. It was a pact, a promise that one day she too would get her chance. And when that chance finally came, she trekked 800 kilometers to Paris, carrying little more than a suitcase sewn from wool blankets. A symbol of her fierce determination and humble beginnings. At the Sorbonne, she was relentless. She sat front row, often shivering, snow still dripping from her skirts, because she literally couldn't afford coal for heating. First in her physics degree, then first in mathematics, she'd learned the pattern early. If doors stay locked, you don't just knock, you find a way to pick them. It was a Polish professor, recognizing a kindred spirit, who introduced her to Marie Curie. He was a quiet, thoughtful Frenchman who had already made his mark, showing how certain crystals could actually generate electricity under pressure. He spoke in measured, precise sentences. She, you could say, thought in numbers that practically glowed with potential. They were two halves of a scientific whole, drawn together by a shared passion for discovery. They married in 1895, and their honeymoon, a bicycle tour where they talked shop over bread and cheese, already dreaming of the scientific puzzles they'd solve together. Back in their now famous shed lab, the work began. They ground, they filtered, they crystallized. Tons of pitchblende residue weighing 20 times more than they did passed through their hands. The counter clicked faster each week, a tiny, insistent heartbeat signaling something profound. Marie, with her sharp intuition, wagered that somewhere in that messy, radioactive ore lived a new, unseen element. She was right. In 1898, she coined the word radioactivity on a page corner marking a seismic shift in our understanding of the universe. It was her idea, her initial hypothesis, that the radiation came from the atom itself, a revolutionary thought at the time. After months of backbreaking, repetitive stirring, sifting, and processing, a miracle happened. Two faint blue lines shimmered into existence in the spectroscope. These weren't just lines. They were the signatures of two new elements, polonium, named with profound longing for her occupied Polish homeland, and radium, the glowing metal that seemed to defy all known laws by simply not stopping glowing. The work was brutal, a relentless physical and mental marathon. Pierre's hands cracked and bled from handling the corrosive chemicals. Marie's breathing faltered in the poorly ventilated shed, her lungs slowly taking in the very danger they sought to understand. They didn't know the invisible rays were silently slicing through their marrow, irrevocably damaging their bodies. They only knew the thrill of measurement, the certainty of empirical data, and the sheer wonder of unlocking nature's secrets. When the Nobel telegram finally arrived in 1903, the committee, in its infinite wisdom, tried to leave her off the prize list. Can you believe it? Pierre, to his credit, insisted. He declared he wouldn't accept the prize without her, forcing them to acknowledge her indispensable contribution. She became the first woman laureate, a monumental achievement. Yet, what did the newspapers focus on? Not her groundbreaking science, but what she wore to the ceremony. Her elegant, understated reply, "It's the black dress, the same as always." Then, in 1906, tragedy struck with a cruel, sudden force. A carriage wheel on a wet Paris street shattered Pierre's skull. Marie froze mid-lecture when the news reached her, the world collapsing around her. Overnight, she wasn't just a grieving widow. She was a single mother of two young girls, the head of a demanding laboratory, and still, incredibly, the only person alive who truly understood how to isolate pure radium. For Marie, became almost another data point. She wrote in her diary that she would measure sorrow the same way she measured half-life decay was inevitable. Yes, but it was also quantifiable, something to be observed and understood. Male colleagues, with their well-meaning but utterly condescending intentions, offered to adopt her projects for her own good. Of course, she didn't just decline, she doubled her teaching load, took over Pierre's professorship at the Sorbonne, becoming the first woman to hold such a position, and ran the lab that would go on to train an entire generation of nuclear physicists. Her resilience was truly astonishing. By 1911, Stockholm invited her to accept the chemistry Nobel alone, a testament to her singular achievement in isolating radium. But even this triumph was marred by vicious public attacks. The French press, fueled by xenophobia and misogyny, called her a homewrecker, twisting her innocent friendship with physicist Paul Langevin into a front-page scandal. She boarded the train to Sweden with shingles burning across her face, a physical manifestation of the immense stress and scrutiny. In her Nobel lecture, ever the professional, she avoided the gossip entirely, speaking instead with calm authority on radium and the new chemistry. But the deeper, more personal speech, the one teachers and scientists still quote today, came later that winter, across the Atlantic. At Vassar College in New York, there, for 20 minutes, she distilled decades of unwavering belief and hard-won wisdom. Let's really listen to the heart of it, line by line. She opened flatly, almost dismissively. "I am among you to speak of science, not of myself." Classic Curie deflection, right? Yet, every single sentence that followed carried the weight of her autobiography, her lived experience. Research is a search for truth, and the desire for truth must be purely human. What's she really saying? Curiosity. That curiosity, that innate drive to understand, needs no passport, no gender, no social status. It's a fundamental human impulse. She warned against chasing immediate applications too soon. Timeless piece of advice for funders and innovators alike. We must not bend the tree before the roots take hold. Discovery, she argued, is inherently inefficient by design. You simply cannot schedule a breakthrough between breakfast and lunch. It demands patience, dedication, and the freedom to explore without immediate demands for profit. Then came the line that still circulates on lab posters, a mantra for scientific integrity. In science, we must be interested in things, not in persons. She meant that hierarchy should always bow to evidence, that personal biases should never cloud objective observation. The delicious irony, of course, is that the only reason we remember that profound sentence is precisely because she, a person, so powerfully embodied it. While her words urged detachment, her body told a different, tragic story. Cataracts clouded her brilliant eyes, the result of years of radiation exposure. Lesions speckled her fingertips, raw and inflamed from constantly handling radioactive materials with bare hands. During World War I, with her adopted country under siege, she didn't retreat. Instead, she designed and deployed petites Curies, mobile X-ray vans that could scan 1 million wounded soldiers right on the battlefield. She drove to the front lines herself, often with her teenage daughter Iran by her side, teaching women to radiograph shrapnel and broken bones, bringing life-saving diagnostics directly to those who needed it most. She even tried to donate her Nobel gold medals to the war effort, buying war bonds with her prize money when the bank refused the medals. She returned to a lab that, by then, was so radioactive you couldn't visit it without a Geiger counter. By 1934, her bone marrow, after decades of silent assault, finally surrendered. The nurse who washed her body wore gloves. Her coffin was lined with lead. Even in death, she instructed, her papers, still hot with radioactivity, are kept in lead-lined boxes today. A tangible, poignant legacy of her sacrifice. Scroll through any comment section today, and you'll quickly see the endless debate. Should science stay pure, driven by curiosity, or should it pivot to profit, chasing immediate returns? Curie's answer, forged in that leaky shed, was simple: patience. She famously refused to patent radium, convinced that secrecy would only strangle progress and limit its potential to help humanity. The result? Hospitals worldwide rapidly adopted radiation therapy, saving countless lives. Today, when startups brag about moving fast and breaking things, her speech whispers a powerful counter-narrative: move fast. Yes, but dig deep, understand thoroughly. When grant panels demand immediate deliverables and quantifiable outcomes, her ghost counters with a plea. Give uncertainty room to breathe, nurture the unknown. And when a bright girl in a chemistry class hears the tired, age-old lie that girls don't math, the echo is Marie's boots, strong and resolute, climbing those Sorbonne steps, proving them all wrong. If this incredible story has reframed your take on research, on perseverance, on what it truly means to be a scientist, then hit subscribe. We drop more histories that glow in the dark every single month. And tell us in the comments which line from her speech feels most urgent, most relevant right now. Marie Curie's lecture at Vassar ended with a quiet, profound promise. The fruits will come, perhaps when we are no longer here to taste them. And she was so right. Radium's half-life is 1,600 years, but her stubborn brilliance, her unwavering courage, lasts far, far longer. Every time a lab publishes open data, every time a woman presents groundbreaking results without apology or hesitation, her words tick once more. We can't measure her legacy in sieverts or in citations alone. We measure it in choices. The choice to ask the difficult question, to share the method, to stay curious longer than the world stays cynical. That, truly, is the purest element she isolated, pure, glowing, and utterly impossible to undiscover.